If you were born and raised in Knoxville, you know we are experiencing a boom from people moving to the area, new businesses opening up, to development from each and every corner of this region. Since 2010, the greater Knoxville area has added 141,000 residents. That's the equivalent of Washington County, Tennessee, 141,000 people. With that growth come opportunities and challenges. That's what we're digging into today. We are talking with Justin Cazana. He is the principal broker at Avison Young, and he is here to explain the boom going on in Knoxville and the surrounding area. Justin Cazana, good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Always great to be here.
Okay, we are talking about Knoxville and this exponential growth that it is experiencing. But let's turn back the hands of time.
Yeah.
You're born bred Knoxville. What was Knoxville?
1972.
Let's talk about Knoxville, 1972.
Golly, I lived in this little bubble when you're young. I mean, you live around the area. I grew up in West Knoxville, kind of the North Shore Westland area, and you see things grow and you see things happen. I remember when they expanded Westtown Mall. Which was a big deal. It was a lot smaller than it is now. Mm-hmm. I remember when they built Easttown back in 1984, and how game-changing that was. And you remember downtown, in the 70s and early 80s was pretty active, and then it went through a tough phase where it was really quiet, and people would say, they roll up the sidewalks after 5 o'clock because people didn't come down there. And to see it change so much, and I was gone for a big chunk for more than a decade, and then you come back and say, what is this town? This amazing town that's jumped from this little town right on the river. It's got a great football team. There's a minor league baseball team some people go to every once in a while. Mm-hmm. To now it's, what I call America's largest small town.
Ooh, I like that. It's funny you talk about downtown. I moved here in 1992, mm-hmm. and I remember clearly being in downtown after 5 o'clock and tumbleweeds, the proverbial tumbleweed, going down Gay Street because everyone left.
Yeah,
now
really did.
It is booming late into the night, and I think that just exemplifies what you've just said. It has transformed into a big, small town.
I mean, there's a great story that David Dewhurst will tell you. And David, one of the first real redevelopers in downtown, mm-hmm. that he and a partner bought a building on the 700 block of Gay Street with their credit cards. They maxed out their credit cards. That's how inexpensive it was to buy a building. And now, you're talking about, Riverview Tower sold for $44 million in the last couple of months. I mean, all these things that have changed in just the last decade, and even more so since COVID in 2020.
Okay, let's talk about this change. What was it? What led to this change? I know there are many things, but let's kind of dig into those. What happened that resulted in what we are seeing?
Well, and I'm going to speak from a very commercial real estate perspective,
because that's what
I do. I've been doing it for 22 years now, and what we saw and why Knoxville had that growth since COVID is Knoxville came back really, really fast. From people were coming back to the office, people were coming back to work, back to school. I remember having a conversation, in August of 21. With a broker who I was doing a deal with out of Michigan, and it was August, and he goes, "How are things?" I said, "Great. It's 78 degrees, and the kids just went back to school." And he lost his mind. He's like, "They're back in school? Are you serious?" Michigan, a very different case study when it came to who was back to the office and who wasn't. Here in Knoxville, we were back, and really across the state of Tennessee, we were back really fast. We manage, in my company, Avison Young, manages a little over 1 million square feet of commercial space around the market. And I can tell you, except for one or two companies, by December of 2020, everybody was back in the office at 80% capacity, or 3 to 4 days a week. Whereas if you go to some other states, like Michigan, like California, Washington State, they were still stay at home. We don't want you here. And in Knoxville, it was very, very different. And I look at it from a variety of perspectives. The companies that weren't back in the office were typically large companies, companies that could manage people remotely. They could afford to put the infrastructure in place to allow people to work from home. Whereas if you're from Knoxville, and the example I use is you have an insurance firm and it's got 50 people in your company, and you pay $100,000 a year to rent office space, you don't have the capacity, the bandwidth, the financial background to be able to say, I've got to pay $100,000 for all this software for people to put on their computers so they can work from home safely. Not just from a COVID standpoint, from a security standpoint,
Right.
because that's when cybersecurity really exploded with all the attacks. So people came back to the office, and Knoxville was way ahead of the game. I think people saw that across the country, and it just started that idea. That's just one focus of why Knoxville came back so fast.
Yeah. So within that span of time from COVID, even beyond 10 years.
Yes.
What's the trajectory? Have we hit our peak as far as growth in your realm? Are we slowing down? Are we pulling back? Where do we stand as far as growth in the greater Knoxville area?
From a commercial real estate
Yes.
perspective, it's still happening.
Okay.
I mean, we're seeing significant growth. Obviously, you and I have talked about the shops at Western Plaza that was sold from a regional, local developer owner to a national group, a national REIT that took that over. We're seeing that across the board as national investors move into the market. We're seeing more development that comes on the office side of things that has to do with the growth of what's happening in Oak Ridge with the small modular nuclear reactors. 5,000 jobs over the next 5 years are supposed to come in. And not everybody can work in Oak Ridge. Not everybody wants to work in Oak Ridge. And for one, the commute. Two, there's a bridge that crosses the river that's a bit of a bear to deal with. But people want to be in new construction. They want to see that new side. So we're going to see a lot of growth up and down the Pellissippi Parkway.
Yeah, we want to get into that.
We will.
We're going to get
Yeah.
into it. It's called the Golden Triangle,
That's right.
just to tease you. With companies coming, inevitably people come first, and then the companies come and the people come thereafter. That is just a factor of this too. This, not only are we growing commercially, but residentially, we're seeing this boom, if you will, in the greater Knoxville area, right?
Very
and
much
needed.
So. Yes. And you're right. The people are coming first. They're
Yes.
not. People ask, are they bringing their companies? I'm like, well, not yet. If you go back and look at some of the chamber information when they talk about the Chamber of Commerce with who was moving here in 2021, 22, it was an older demographic. It was people that were leaving California and Chicago and New York, wanting to come to more temperate climates, a better tax structure with the state that doesn't have an income tax. All these different opportunities. They were older. They were in their 60s who were moving.
Hey.
I'm a long way. We're both a long way from there. But when you look at that demographic, they're coming and they're retiring and they're using up services, but not necessarily contributing to the overall benefit of growth of Knoxville. If you take those numbers and look at 23 and 24 and 25, it's a much more younger demographic that's moved
Like
here.
what age? Are we looking at?
Like 35, 25 to 35. That is starting to see Knoxville as that newer, cooler, hipper place that it wasn't 10, 15 years ago.
Because you would hear that continually of we will grow them, we'll educate them, and then they leave.
Yeah.
But now we're starting to see them come back or stay, hopefully.
I remember I was in I think it was the Knoxville Business Journal. I was on kind of one of their advisory panels, and we were sitting there having a meeting, and it was me and Dave Miller, who's the CEO of Apex Bank now. He was with First Horizon at the time. We were the oldest people in the group, which gives you pause. And one of the guys was younger, and he was fussing about the nickname the Scruffy Little City, which I really love the name. A lot of people don't. But he was talking about there's nothing to do in Knoxville. I'm 25. There's this. And I was like, I don't get it. Yeah. And then I really thought about it more. And I thought, maybe Knoxville's not the cool place to be 25. It's a great place to be 35. I really enjoy my 12-minute commute and raise a family and being able to run downtown, in 15 or 20 minutes. Or, I can be in so many places. And while traffic is bad compared to what it was 6-7 years ago, it's so much better than Atlanta or Chicago or Nashville, all those places.
Yeah, it's all perspective.
It's all perspective.
Yeah.
All perspective.
You specialize in commercial development, commercial real estate. What types of businesses are wanting to call Knoxville home? What kind of industries? Who wants to come here?
We're seeing a lot more companies that are coming here because of the availability of talent. You kind of said it a second ago that we would educate people at the University of Tennessee and then they'd leave to go to Atlanta, Charlotte, Charleston, Nashville. More and more of them are staying. They're seeing the talent that is here. They're seeing the talent of companies that are developing the skills here. CGI, which moved into Riverview Tower a couple of years ago, a tech firm, big economic development win for Knoxville. Green Hecht, which is a big development up in East Knox County right now, that's building one of the largest projects Knox County's ever seen. They see the technology and the labor force that's here.
Now, what is this again?
This is Green Hecht.
Okay.
And I hope I pronounced it right. It has to
we apologize.
and it has to do with mechanical systems. It's a huge project that's being developed. It is the largest project, I think, in Knox County history from an economic development standpoint. And it's under construction right now. And then you have companies that are out there that, Cirrus Aircraft moved here before COVID. Smith & Wesson moved into Blount County. Their corporate headquarters moved from Massachusetts down here because of opportunities, because of legislation that was happening in Massachusetts. All these different factors that are tying in economic development, incentives to move here, more freedom to operate. We're seeing those companies start to relocate in Knoxville and really kind of stretching their fingertips into Knoxville.
Okay, that leads perfectly into the Golden Triangle,
Sure.
which we had mentioned, and that is a term you came up with. Explain it, what it is, and the significance of it when it comes to what you're talking about.
Yeah, when you talk about the Golden Triangle of Knoxville, you kind of hit the three big points on the compass, and that being one edge being downtown Knoxville with the University of Tennessee, TVA, everything that's happening, and just the traditional CBD and downtown growth. The other side is Oak Ridge National Labs, or Oak Ridge, with all the development now in the last couple of years of the small modular nuclear reactors. The billions of dollars that are being poured into Oak Ridge for that very purpose, to see the growth, because that is leading the United States in nuclear growth and everything that we're going to need for energy growth because of consumption of AI. And then on the other side, that other point, is Blount County, and Blount County kind of anchored by the airport, McGee-Tyson. And it's all connected by, three basic roads. You got I-40 that goes down, heads west out of downtown. Then you got Pellissippi Parkway, I-140 that runs from Oak Ridge down to McGee-Tyson, and then of course Alcoa Highway that leads back to downtown Knoxville. So roughly inside that window is where we're seeing a majority of the economic growth for Knoxville. Whether it's the growth of the airport, which has been unbelievable, the growth of downtown Knoxville, which is just always strong, and then Oak Ridge, which is the federal programs that are continuing to explode.
Let's kind of break it down then. The airport. If you've been to the airport of late, it is undergoing a transformation, but it has to in many respects, given what we're talking about with development, given the number of people who have moved here, and given just the interest in general in East Tennessee, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. When I moved here, I remember counting how many direct flights, how many cities you could get to from Knoxville, and it was like 12. And I thought, okay, that's not bad. I'm used to connecting anyway. But now it's like 31. And we've gotten, after years and years, they finally got Southwest. And what a great win that was as that continues to grow. There's a 3,500 space parking garage being built. That's what you see right now. And then in the next 5 or 6 years, there'll be 6 more gates that are added on to McGee-Tyson. And even when they finish those 6 gates, they're going to be at capacity. For airlines, for people, everything there, because Knoxville has become one of those spots. Knoxville used to be one of the top 5 most expensive airports in America to fly in and out of. And
I remember reporting on that frequently.
And now we're like in the top 35. And which is good. It's better. It's not great because there are 200 airports around, but it's a whole lot better. And the reason we were expensive was because so much of the travel was corporate travel. It was people coming out of Oak Ridge that were flying to Washington, flying to New York. They're not coming out of their own pocket to pay for that. That's being paid for by a stipend or by the government. And we've got this great tourism boom with Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Smoky Mountains, the most visited national park in America, but everybody drives to it. Very few people fly to Knoxville to go to the Smoky Mountains. So we're seeing that change thanks to all the airlines that are coming in now and the opportunities to come in and get here quick, get here easy. There's obviously always sometimes it's bad, but usually it's a 10-minute wait max at the airport. So it's a great place that makes it very easy.
Let's go to the other corner of the triangle, downtown Knoxville.
Yep.
Talk about, and we mentioned it early on in our discussion, just how it has transformed. Are we at, can it grow anymore? Is there room, or has it reached its point where we're going to kind of be in this homeostasis space?
Gosh, I hope not.
I know.
If we're stuck, I would hate that.
But you look at the ball stadium, the baseball stadium, all these things that have come. There's room to continue to
There's
grow.
room. There's room inside the core, and there's room on the periphery. It's the McClung warehouse site. The city put out an RFQ for that a couple of years ago. They will be awarding that in the next couple of months, certainly by late summer, which would be a great opportunity. Right there on the rail yard at Jackson Avenue, it's going to be mixed use. It's going to go vertical. It's going to change the look of what Knoxville has, the view of Knoxville from the interstate. There's some sites right in the middle of downtown Knoxville. There's a big parking lot right there on the 700 block of Gay Street. That would be a great development opportunity. The site is just as big as the First Tennessee Plaza. So you could put 400,000 square feet of office there, or mixed use, whatever you want to do there. Opportunity there. People are getting more creative with where they're going to put different developments. There's a hotel going in right behind, right near J.C. Holdway, that they're not shoehorning it in. They're doing it the way you do it in a major city. Here's a block. We're going to maximize what we can do here. So there is tremendous opportunity for downtown Knoxville. I know there's some politicians who've talked about, do we need the city-county building? Is that a great use of unbelievable land?
What's your thought?
Overlooking the river. I'm a developer. I'm a commercial
we
real
got your
estate.
answer.
I would push it in the river and start something fun. But that, who knows how much that would cost? Yeah. And it's easy to say that here and say, just get rid of the city-county building.
Yeah, where's the mayor's office going to go?
Yeah, exactly. They're great opportunities. When you looked at the University of Tennessee, for generations, it was stuck because of the river, the railroad, Cumberland Avenue in downtown. And then kind of when Randy Boyd became president, he's like, take down the boundaries. We're going downtown. We're crossing over to Sutherland Avenue. We're coming across the river. We're going to expand. And look at what UT has done since then, when they kind of got out of that thinking of we're stuck. What can we do? What can we do next?
Okay, let's keep on the UT, and we'll get to Oak Ridge, the other corner of the triangle. But UT, it's phenomenal, as you just mentioned, the growth it's experienced and the borders coming down and they're expanding. Let's talk about this entertainment district that is on the fast track, if you will. I'm not sure how long it's going to take, but we're talking, this is off the charts transformative for that area, right? Where G10 is, it's going to become this entertainment district.
Yeah, the Neyland Entertainment District is really like nothing. No one has it in America of this scale. They've got it some smaller stadiums, but nothing at the size of Neyland. It takes so much forward thinking, so much planning. I mean, we're 3 or 4 years into kind of the original announcement of who's going to do this and all the factors that go into it. It will completely change the face of collegiate sports in the Southeastern Conference. It'll change the face of the riverfront, about what you see from Neyland Drive as you head down there, and really change the opportunities. And I did love it's going to be hard. 2 or 3 years, it's just going to be hard because of all the construction that's going to be there. There are going to be changes. Nobody likes change. But in the end, I remember Donde Plowman, the chancellor, saying, this site is used 35 days a year between basketball games and football games. Why can't we make it 320 days a year, where there's an opportunity, whether it's food, whether you can have a wedding there, whether you can have meetings there, just these cool opportunities to activate areas.
Kind of like the baseball stadium in many respects.
In many respects. You're not, the stadium, the baseball stadium wasn't built to be just baseball. It was built to be soccer, to have concerts, to have everything there. What else can the University of Tennessee and Knoxville do to activate that, area? Because G10, it's one of the great places that Tennessee fans love to tailgate, but we're talking about that's 8 days a year. Imagine what it can be when you can do it all the time. When you can go down to Neyland Drive and just say, let's go have dinner here. Let's go get a hotel. This hotel would be great to stay at just for a weekend away, for a staycation. It's exciting. There's going to be pain. There's always pain with growth. But in the long run, if it's done right, it'll be tremendous.
Going even beyond the entertainment district, they're looking to go across the river, the south side. How do you balance, and just give me your opinion, your thought on this. Yeah, you want that growth, but you do want to retain the flavor of a community too. There's a balance there, wouldn't you agree?
Yes. I'm afraid that the community is, you might as well say it's gone. when you talk about Blount Avenue, when you talk about that general area. You've already got, 1,000 beds of student housing that are there. One opened last year. There's another one coming up that'll open next month in August.
So that transition,
that transition's already there. And so we've seen these 15 acres that are going to be redeveloped. We know that that's going to turn into something special. And for too long, Knoxville has this tremendous waterfront, north side and south side, that we've obviously had for generations, and we've wasted it. It's been wasted by water treatment plants, by concrete, by Neyland Drive, which wasted, putting the city county building where they put it 50 plus years ago. The Holston, the Holston gas area where you've got tanks along the waterfront. It was industrialized, and it's never changed. This is an opportunity for it to be changed, and be changed really, in a very short period of time, compared to what it has taken since then.
What could it look like? I mean, what kind of retail, what kind of experience do you think it would provide? There's
no telling. I mean, there is, this RFQ that the city put out, this request for qualifications for developers to come in and say, this is what we can do, or this is what we want to do for this 15 acres, and this is what we've done in the past. I have had so many calls from national developers across the country that want to hear about Knoxville. They want to hear about, okay, tell me about the South Knoxville waterfront. Tell me where is the critical mass of people? How are people getting in here? How are people getting out? What do you think will be something that will be attractive to not students, but to the general public, to people like me who are willing to come over there? This area, the pedestrian bridge from the University of Tennessee will connect into this 15 acres if it's ever built. How does that serve the area? Because the city doesn't want more student housing on this 15 acres. It's already there. What are you going to do with this particular site? It could literally be anything. You could do 30 stories. You probably couldn't do 30. That's going extreme. But you're going to see 5, 6, 7 stories opportunities of there for multifamily, for office, for any type of retail that'll go in that general area. But there are some hiccups you have to get past. I mean, there's real access and egress issues. You drive up and down Blount Avenue, you've got one-lane railroad trestles that you've got to go through on both sides, Scottish Pike and then at Blount, to get out onto Chapman Highway. That's a huge issue. That's a huge problem.
It is, and that just it's beyond there. It's a problem, I think, throughout the area, is having the infrastructure to keep up with the development. Are we doing a good job at this, or not?
It's so hard because it's when you're talking about dealing with railroads in this particular case, railroads have all the power. Right. The mayor, the governor, maybe the president could go to a railroad and say, "You've got to take care of this." Otherwise, it's their decision. They're not gonna let you just widen it so you can put in 2 or 3 lanes there. That is one of the hard parts. Is infrastructure. With all the development that Knoxville has, the infrastructure is a real big problem.
You hear that from residents. The roads are not in the best shape.
Exactly. And and we've seen both parts of Blount County, parts of Loudoun County, Lenoir City put a moratorium on residential development because they want to make sure they have a plan that the infrastructure can keep up. And that infrastructure is not just roads and power and water; it's schools, it's fire, it's all the things that are tied into it. So it's a very difficult balancing act. I would not want to be in part of the administration where you say, no, we're not doing that because we got to put in bigger water lines, or we got to widen the roads, because you're trying to add to the tax base by putting properties on the tax rolls. It's a tough balancing act.
It is, and that's unfortunately their decision their problem, I guess, to figure out for sure. Let's move on to Oak Ridge. We've mentioned it, but talk about boomtown. Oak Ridge is boomtown, especially in the nuclear realm right now.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's always been that way. It's been that hidden gem in Knoxville that no one really talks about. When I started doing this nearly a quarter century ago, there was this line between Oak Ridge and Knoxville. You either worked in Oak Ridge or you worked in Knoxville. You didn't work in both. And that line has really grayed over time. And now it's gone completely. Because, since COVID, it used to be if you had certain levels of government contracts, your office had to be in Oak Ridge. It didn't matter. You couldn't put it on Pellissippi Parkway, 15 minutes away. You had to be in Oak Ridge. That restriction's gone away. So more companies moving into, kind of West Knoxville, new construction, something they like with better access to Oak Ridge. But that's when you obviously had Y-12 you working on the defense side. Oak Ridge, no one talks about the Spallation neutron source, which is the world's largest science experiment. There it is in Oak Ridge. No one talks about it, but it's happening, and it's amazing. And the world's fastest supercomputer is there. But all people are talking about is nuclear, because that's what's driving all the growth. You see all these companies that are coming out that are, they're wanting to be in this market, wanting to be part of this nuclear growth with the small modular nuclear reactors. And if people haven't kept up, imagine, you see a nuclear reactor now, and it's Watts Bar, and it's hundreds of acres that takes decades to build and to get approved. And now we're talking about nuclear reactors that are the size of your house, and can be built in a matter of a year or two or less because of the way the technology is advanced. Everything is diving into Oak Ridge for this very use. So we're talking about all the jobs. We're talking about constant companies that are coming in. We're touring with a company tomorrow that's talking about 400 needs 400 people to move into an office building in the next year. That are all engineers. They're all not all engineers, but they're engineering based. We're talking about salaries in the six figures, if not more. Watching this whole program develop, it's constant.
What are the positives that companies see in our area that they want to come make this their base or locate here? And what are the negatives? Anything that stands out that you hear regularly?
Positives, we're going with, the incentives that the state and the city can provide. The relatively good infrastructure behind it. A fair amount of good trades that are here. I do know when we talk about these nuclear programs that are coming to Oak Ridge, we had a company, it was a French-based company that came and toured around, 3 or 4 different sites. They were talking about 900 jobs, but they were also looking at Raleigh. They were looking at a couple different places in the Carolinas. They were looking in Atlanta, and then up in some places in Virginia, because there was a little concern about how many engineers they could hire here. That's the hard part. When you're hiring 5,000 people and a majority of them are engineers, you're constantly fighting for talent. So you wonder, is there a little bit of a little bit of cannibalism that's going to happen out there? That's going to be one of the really tough parts.
Who's our biggest competitor?
Gosh, it's different on so many levels.
Okay. That's fair. That makes sense.
But our number one competitor, and has been for decades, is Chattanooga. And I feel like Knoxville has this unbelievable inferiority complex when it comes to Chattanooga. Chattanooga's had this, they've had that, they got Volkswagen. People ask, why didn't we get Volkswagen? I'm like, well, find me 1,500 flat acres. That doesn't exist in Knoxville. They have it in Chattanooga. Yeah. But what Chattanooga did 20 years ago is they built the world's fastest, basically, internet. They have fiber throughout Chattanooga. They were the first, I think they call it gig city. And that's where quantum computing is really going right now. There's a lot of that quantum computing is coming out of Oak Ridge. They've already got it. They're already working on it in Chattanooga. And remember, Chattanooga and Oak Ridge are both served by the same congressman. They have been building that relationship for decades. So that quantum computing side is that tie between Oak Ridge and Chattanooga. They're going to be our number one competitor. They had a great new baseball stadium when the Smokies moved to Sevier County. Then Knoxville got their baseball stadium first. Chattanooga opened theirs back 6-8 weeks ago. So we're always in this battle with Chattanooga on those different things. But when you talk about more regionally, Birmingham, Greenville has always been in the craw of Knoxvillians, because Greenville was really aggressive in the 90s and the early 2000s. Greenville had a mayor. They don't have term limits in Greenville.
I did not know that.
They had the same mayor. Don't quote me on this.
Okay.
But 15 or 20 years, the same mayor, and he helped grow that side. And it's been watching that grow.
And so much of that is it's this simpatico, if you will, of development and government and getting on the same path, if you will.
And if you go into downtown Greenville, it's great. And the differences between downtown Greenville and downtown Knoxville, Greenville built the infrastructure and the cool stuff first, and then the developers came in. Knoxville's the opposite. The developers came in, built the cool stuff, and then the city kind of kind of caught up as fast as they could traditionally.
Right.
So that has been a big function of Greenville. And Greenville had, their economic development side, they've got Google, they've got BMW, they've got a lot of aerospace in Greenville, and they're ahead of Chattanooga, they're ahead of Knoxville, they're the star, have been traditionally in this smaller market, mid-sized market, southern region.
If you could look into your glass ball and see Knoxville 10 years from now, what would you see?
I see more entertainment downtown, not just the ballpark, but like big new hotels that are bringing more and more into Knoxville. I think some of that, with that South Knoxville waterfront, in both the where the city's doing projects and then some private developments kind of on the other side of the Gay Street Bridge, kind of as you go upriver.
Yep.
I think there's amazing opportunities now. Right now, the South Knoxville waterfront's very, and I say this in the nicest way, kind of a grungy, cool place to live. It's very hip. And
it has a vibe.
Yeah, it certainly does. And, I remember 20 years ago, Chattanooga had that same vibe in downtown. It was kind of artsy. It was a little different. And then it became cool. And all of a sudden, the artsy and different couldn't afford to be there anymore because it became the hip place to live. And it gets nicer and nicer. And we're seeing more and more developments. And there are a few small parcels right along the water or right off the water that have a tremendous opportunity to be a catalyst for making that South Knoxville waterfront explode. And in 10 years, I think we'll see that. I think the South Knoxville waterfront will look completely different. And I think we'll get a new office building downtown, hopefully. We haven't had one since 1992. We desperately need it for economic development.
Will we ever have another high rise in downtown, you think?
No, we're not going to have a high rise.
Just because the space is not there?
We don't need 400,000 square feet of new space. We need 100,000. I'll tell you, CGI, which is the big win I told you about, the economic development win, technology company, young, cool. They didn't want to be in Riverview Tower. They didn't want to be in a 45-year-old building. They wanted to be in something new and cool, and it didn't exist. So they went, but they wanted to be downtown, so they went into Riverview Tower. That's been a bit of a problem for Knoxville. Is if you want to recruit a young company, you got to have a young place for them to go. And we don't have that right now.
Axle Logistics, that's one I think they've created that space, and but knowing that you want younger, I can see why that would track with them wanting that experience.
Oh, absolutely. I think Axle is the perfect example.
Yeah.
They spent a lot of money creating just a place where you want employees to come, that they don't, they're not walking into this, it's place with kind of dark light and low ceilings. It is alive. There is energy. And we want that to be in downtown Knoxville. And it can be the redevelopment of a building. We saw McCarty, one of the, a linchpin in downtown Knoxville. They just did a redevelopment of the sanitary laundry building on right there on Broadway, the 625 Collective.
Right.
It is an amazing building. You walk in and you're like, this is why people want to work here. People want to come in because of the way it's been redeveloped. And to see someone like that, see Axle and McCarty Holsapple right next to each other practically, to see what they can do, and then look at downtown and say, okay, where is the opportunity downtown?
There's so many spokes off downtown.
Yes.
So you're excited about the future?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Justin Cazana, we could go on and on, but we want you back to talk development in Knoxville and beyond. So thank you. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure.